Okay. Morning, everybody. This is ready? This is the September 18th meeting of the Land, Water, and Conservation Committee and the Dunn County Planning and Resource Committee. So we have a quorum. All members are here. So whether Morehouse is remote today. So let's look at the minutes from August 21st. Is there a motion to approve?
I would like to make that motion.
Is there a second? Any questions or discussions or revisions? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Minutes are approved. We have no public comments that came in online, and we have no one here today. So we have no public hearing. So let's do staff reports. Register deeds. Heather's not here, but Heather's remote. Okay. Anything you want to comment on, Heather? Can't hear you.
She's muted.
Yeah. You might be muted, Heather. Anyway, is there anyone from the committee that has any questions? Heather,
Is Heather here?
Heather, are you there? She might have. We'll come back to this in a minute then. Let's go on to the next report from Environmental Services.
Okay, good morning, everyone. My report is up on the screen for you to look at. I don't really have anything to add other than, as I've been mentioning, land division review has been above normal this year. As of this morning, we've taken in 72 certified survey maps. And just to put that in perspective, all of last year we did 75. So we still have a little over 3 months in this year to go yet. So I'm predicting we're going to be around that 100 mark this year, which is good. It's good. There's a lot happening. So I don't have anything else to add unless there's questions.
Any questions?
Yeah, thank you. 72, does that translate into 72 housing units?
No, not necessarily.
What do you think it would, as far as housing goes, how does that help us? Yeah, you got any prediction?
I think that would be dangerous on my part, honestly. I mean, some of these lots that are created already have existing homes that they're just parceling off from the farmland, so a, cash cropper can buy that, the balance. Some of these certainly are for new construction. Mom and dad are deeding 5 acres to their son or daughter to build a house on. I don't have numbers as far as how many vacant lots. I mean, it would be easy to do. But yeah, it's a mix. It's a general mix of existing homes and some that I'm sure are going to be planned or built. Yep.
Anyone else? Okay, thanks, Tom. Planning and land use.
Good morning, everybody. So I just kind of put together a little summary as usual. Some things that have happened since then. So I know the town of Menominee met yesterday, their board, to discuss the upcoming rezoning of the transfer station recycling center property. And they'll be passing that to their planning commission for review. Thank you, Mike, for letting me know that this morning. So we're just kind of keeping that process going. Yeah, I don't have anything to add unless anybody has any questions.
Sure.
Just one question I heard on the radio where a lot of people are just kind of waiting to see what the interest rates are going to do before they build a new house. So I think even what Tom was saying, some of these here, they're just kind of waiting. If the rates are going to go down, they might be more like proactive into building homes too.
Yeah, I think that makes sense, especially with what we're seeing for like permits coming in. We're kind of at a plateau right now. I know in my report, I kind of included that, permits have been up this year. We've been on track to like exceed what we typically do for permitting. But, I've checked in with my staff and it does seem like things have they're kind of sitting still right now. So that might be what's causing that holding pattern. That makes sense.
Annika.
Have you had any ADU permits yet?
I believe we had 3 that we've discussed in the office. So we had a meeting, I think, was it the last week, just to kind of go through them as a team and identify anything that was concerning or any patterns that we're seeing already. And I believe that one is very close to being issued, if not already. Tracy says maybe Friday for the first ADU permit, which I think is pretty exciting. I think we should frame it and put it on the wall.
Let's have a ribbon cutting.
Oh, that'd be nice. We'll see if the property owner likes that.
Yeah, right. We don't care.
Supervisor Kinnear.
Yeah, thanks. A couple, I want to follow up on that. So from what I've understood, you're kind of developing how you go about this and the rules, and not rules, but the guidelines and so forth.
Yeah, so kind of, in anticipation of this happening, I started writing kind of our permitting guidelines for zoning permits, but also trying to incorporate how we would look at ADUs just slightly differently than normal zoning permits. And part of that, we met as a group and went over them as kind of an exercise to see what kind of things should we be looking for? What kind of checklist can we create? So we're in that process. And my plan is to have, once that's developed for our interoffice use, to have something that we can provide to the public, to the towns, other people, so that they understand what we're doing as well.
And do you have some kind of idea of a time frame that you hope to be able to reach? So if someone applies for an ADU, it'd be a month or 2 months or 2 weeks, or I don't know how long it takes for a permit, so.
Usually with our zoning permits, I think the turnaround time is like a week to 2 weeks, which I think is pretty dang good. a lot of factors come into play if they've already got a sanitary permit or if they've hired a plumber and they've already got that process going. Or if they're, contacting us ahead of time, we try to meet with them informally just to discuss the permitting process before we actually issue anything. But yeah, I'd say 1 to 2 weeks,
Mm.
sometimes less, sometimes more.
Okay, thanks. And the last thing is I really like hearing about the Board of Adjustment stuff. I appreciate the reporting on that.
Yeah, thank you.
So if somebody wanted to put a ADU in, but they want to have their own separate driveway, their own well, their own septic and that, how do you tell the difference that it's not a different house or if it's part of the first house? Because they're not using the driveway or anything else, but they're just within that 300 feet and ever?
Yeah, so I guess you're saying like when you look at it, it looks like it's a different property, but technically it's on the same property.
Right.
I guess, we would allow, they would probably get a separate address and things because if there was a fire or an emergency, they would want to be able to respond to the specific address.
Okay.
I guess we haven't seen anything yet. And it would be up to the town whether they allow that second driveway too.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure how some of them are going to look at that. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we would have a record of it in our office that they're on the same property and that it is an ADU, and then we still have that deed restriction requirement too. So then anybody who looks at the property or buys it would understand.
There was one more thing. It's been a while since you talked about the shoreline ordinance, but
Yeah.
it looks like you're really moving along on that. End of the year?
Well, yeah, so that was, we're doing a rewrite, which is a pretty big deal. Tammy's been working on that. We were working with Christian from Corporation Council just to kind of get through that process. DNR released their model ordinance. So I'm thinking we're still on that timeline, hopefully. We'll see. It's been a busy time for our office as far as like the shoreline zoning permits and things. So that's kind of been pulling us away from working on that, but I think we're gonna do it. That's the goal.
So then does it come back to this committee and we look it over again?
Yep.
Like usual?
Yep,
Okay.
you would get to look at it. We'd, put together a presentation and just kind of summarize some of the major changes and things like that.
I'd note that at the housing work group meeting last week, Ann's on that, staffing that committee also. We talked about the need to sort of incorporate how we could incorporate our strategic planning effort into some of the housing development, make it more of a prominent element in the plan, and Ann's going to be looking into that. Really appreciate all the work she's putting into it. Anything else? Okay, Chase, you're up.
Morning, everyone. My report's in the packet. I guess if you have any specific questions, there's a couple things on our agenda yet today that call for action, so I'll save that. The last thing would be for tonight's county board meeting. I plan to be there for that budget adjustment regarding the additional money we receive for future groundwater and private well monitoring. So with that, I guess if you have any questions, we're chugging along. It's pretty busy right now, but that's normal.
Any questions?
Thank you.
Okay, great. Thanks, Chase. Sure. Any questions for Heather? Thanks. Anything you want to comment on? Heather?
Good morning. Sorry for my technical
problem.
difficulties. No, I didn't have anything to add. I guess I didn't know if anybody had any questions.
Mike has one.
Well, now this isn't really related to your office, but it is related in a way to your work. I see Tom has it, everybody has it, met with accounting pit crew. For people watching this, and for me too, what does that involve when they keep referring to pit crew? I know I've been attending some meetings. So could you explain a little bit how much work that is and what you have to do?
Sure, yeah, so I am involved with the accounting pit crew, which is just one little piece of the pie, what we're all trying to gather information for the new ERP system. So we're meeting a couple times a month and just kind of trying to gather information so that we can make the best decision for our new accounting financial system moving forward. So yeah, it's time consuming, but learning a lot, and hopefully we'll get there so that we make the right decision with our financial software.
So is that everyone in your office?
Nope, just me.
The pit crew, I mean?
The pit crew, I'm sorry, nope, that's throughout the whole county. There's a couple from finance departments. There's it's just volunteers throughout the county that have taken this on.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for asking that question, Mike.
Yeah, and I just have to say, this is across the entire county, not just for Heather. And,
Right.
everybody here is doing it, so.
Right.
Yeah, throughout the county, there's a lot of volunteers, a lot of people that are part of this, and I'm just one pit crew that meets twice a month, but there's a steering committee, and there's pit crews for all the different areas of finance that need to be decided on. Hopefully that makes sense.
And that's in addition to everybody doing their own work.
Yeah, yep, very true.
Any other questions? Okay, thanks, Heather. Let's see, move on to 8A, tax foreclosed property sale. It's by sealed bid. Barbara?
Thank you. There was one property that was taken in tax foreclosed, the foreclosure process that is up for sale, or that should be up for sale that we took through the in-rem tax foreclosure process. So people didn't pay their taxes. We brought action against 50 or so properties. Ultimately, we took judgment against one property. And so that property is on County Road W in Colfax. The 7.74 acre rural residential property. It was appraised through KJET appraisal at $135,000, which is above the tax assessed value of $124,000. When the county took the property when the county took the property last year for taxes due in 2018 and before, there was total taxes due in the amount of $19,873, which represents taxes due through 2023, because we took the property in 2023 for taxes that were due in 2018. But the full amount would be just shy of $20,000 that is owed. If the committee recalls, the law changed, and so there's now an affirmative duty on the committee to have a fair price for the bid or for the property, which I believe that the committee's always done. But now no longer would the additional funds go back to the county's general fund, but rather the Corporation Counsel's Office has a duty to find former heirs to give proceeds after that $20,000 in back taxes and any expenses due is owed. So the county or the Corporation Counsel's Office is asking that the committee set up a sealed bid amount in the amount of $135,000. Keeping in mind that only the back taxes would be returned to the county, most likely. The proposal is to have it published and submitted by sealed bid, and then if there's not sufficient bids that come through, that a realtor be able to be utilized, and the price for the realtor could be taken out of any proceeds.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask a question?
Sure.
Barbara, do I recall that that money is supposed, the money is essentially supposed to be segregated for 5 years?
Correct. There, this particular property, there's one heir that will attempt to, the property owners, previous property owners are deceased, so there's one heir that we'll try and make contact with. We have a duty to try and make contact with, but yes,
Sure.
the money before, efforts need to be made to find any heirs or the property owners. And that process, the money is segregated from the general fund for a period of 5 years for any heirs to lay claim to.
All right, thank you.
Right.
You said, if it doesn't sell, you'd go through a realtor. I'm curious why we don't go through a realtor right away and take that job away from you. You've got plenty to do.
So that is certainly the committee's prerogative if we want to have a realtor right away. The idea behind potentially having the corporation counsel's office instead of a realtor do it is that we could bill for the corporation counsel's office time as the only real way in this process to have some sort of proceeds to the county. That was the distinction.
Thank you.
That makes sense.
So-
Any other questions?
Yeah.
Gary?
Do you have any step price, what you would do after taxes are taken out? Like maybe you'd say 5% of it is just our work, trying to get it ready for sale and that kind of stuff. I mean, it'd be nice if you have some centered more of what would cost for a property.
So the law change is kind of evolving as we see what other counties are doing to adapt and react to the new law change. It seems clear from the United States Supreme Court case and from the law changes in the state of Wisconsin that reacted to that having just a general fee on top is probably not going to be considered an actual cost. And so the Corporation Counsel's office will be for this part with the sale, keeping track of time spent on the sale actions if we decide to not go with a realtor and go with the Corporation Counsel's office, so that it's actual costs and fees that could be taken from the sale proceeds.
Monica?
So the report notes that there's considerable clutter and things that need to be taken care of. Is it being sold as is, or is the county taking care of that clutter?
The property is being proposed to be sold as is. That's how we've sold previous properties, and especially with the law change, I don't know that there's any incentive to put a lot of resources into rehabbing that particular parcel.
Makes sense. Thank you.
So we need a motion to proceed with the sale, the closed bid, right? Can I have a motion for that?
I can move, Mr. Chairman, that we
Okay.
value the property at $135,000 as requested.
Thank you. Is there a second? Supervisor Bjork seconds. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Both say no. Both say no. Okay, thank you, Barbara.
Thank you very much.
8B, resolution selecting the 2025 Conservation Aids Project. Jason?
Me again. So this is a annual thing that comes before this committee regarding our, it's known as Fish and Game Program historically, but in modern times, it's a Conservation AIDS Program. So a quick background on that. Basically, there used to be a bounty on certain wildlife years and years ago. That bounty went away, and the funds that typically were allocated by the state to counties for those bounties has been turned into this conservation aid program. So those funds help. It's required to be a 50% match grant. And those funds are required to be put back into land access, public access type projects, habitat projects, things like that. You may recall projects in the past, putting into pollinator habitat, stream restoration, trout habitat restoration, boat landings, boat docks, things like that. This year, working with Michelle at DNR, our wildlife biologist for our area, proposed a number of projects to the Conservation Alliance. And the selection that they are recommending is allocating these funds to a project in Dunnville. There is a red pine plantation that was planted 50 years ago that's now been harvested. And based on the uniqueness and the unique habitat types in Dunnville, looking at trying to rehab that area into more public access, but then also maintaining some of that unique habitat in that area. So these funds, we match as a county match about $2,325. So a total of $4,650 is available for projects like this. So after some deliberation with the Alliance of Conservation Sports Clubs, this is their recommendation to apply for our next year's funding in the Conservation Aid Program to be put towards the Dunnville Habitat Project. So with any questions you might have, I'd be happy to answer. And your decision would be to allocate that. If you also note in the resolution that this is a resolution that in the past has been approved to be final here at this committee and and does not need to go to the full county board. So I'd be happy to answer any questions, and otherwise, upon your approval, I will apply.
Is there any like wildlife that you're trying to like promote for that area?
I'm not the wildlife biologist, but I'll see what I can relay. Yeah, basically, there's unique corridors and things through oak savanna and oak barren type ecotypes within Dunnville. So obviously it supports your common species as well. I don't recall any special species, but I think there are some that are in that area that are very unique. Especially Dunnville and the Tyrone property across the Chippewa River. Those are, fairly unique in the state as floodplain forests or oak savannas. And so with time, it helps support maybe species that aren't typically found or are on the decline. So unfortunately, I don't have any specific names, but if you'd like, I can get those for you. Okay.
Any other questions?
So is this the place that's known as the Dunville Bottoms?
Yes.
Got it.
Yep.
Thank you.
And it's a large property, so the bottoms that probably most community members think of is near the Trestle Bridge,
Okay.
right on the Chippewa River, but that property extends, it's 4,300 acres, so it extends quite significantly into the north and west portions. And in this particular site where they're working on this would be off of County Road Y in the Twin Lakes Road area. So if you're familiar with Eat My Fish trout farm, it's in that area up on top of that river terrace.
Really? Okay, motion to approve.
I move to approve participation in the Dunn County Fish and Game Program as Chase explained it.
I'll second that motion.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Motion carries.
Say, Chase,
Thank you.
so what happened to that road that was on the south side of the Chippewa River that Dunn County owned a little bit of it and Pepin owned most of it? Did that get finalized or is that still going through the process?
It's still going through the process, so that's part of the Chippewa River Trail system.
Yep.
And we, as Dunn County's participation in it, the county board passed the resolution to enter into a memorandum of understanding with Landmark Conservancy and Pepin County. My understanding right now, you may have seen some press releases go out in the last couple of weeks, some news stories kind of promoting it. So it's getting some attention. The appraisal is yet to be turned into Landmark. And I think the expectation was it was going to be in last week, but that seems to be a day by day thing. Once that appraisal is submitted, That will determine what type of grant funds to apply for that Landmark will do on our behalf. So Landmark Conservancy will pursue a Knowles Nelson Stewardship Fund grant based on the appraisal. That if that grant comes back and if Excel Energy is still in agreement with what they're going to sell it for, then that grant could potentially cover the purchase of that property. And then Landmark would in turn turn the properties over to the respective counties based on the percentage of the trail that's in each county. So there's still work that needs to be done. This process working through Landmark is beneficial because they're a nonprofit and allows a little bit more flexibility and opportunity for grant funds through this program. So the strict deadlines and things like that, they're kind of a rolling deadline. They do it, and they review the applications in batches. So as the appraisal comes in, there's really there's no one in a big rush on this. So hoping to do it right. And but certainly, and I mentioned this at the county board meeting as well, there will be some discussion that will have to take place should all of these pieces come together as far as future maintenance of the trail. And I think I mentioned before, Pepin County Highway Department for the last 15 years or so has been the primary maintainers of that entire stretch, even into Dunn County. And I think based on the efficiency and effectiveness of any Dunn County crews to get down to that area, it might be beneficial for us to negotiate with Pepin on how to further maintain that or continue to maintain that. But that's too soon to tell, and certainly more work that needs to be done.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Mike?
No.
No. So we have a motion and a second. We already passed this.
Yeah, I
didn't we?
think so.
Yeah. Let's pass it again. What the heck? Looks like that's it. Any announcements?
I got one more on there.
You got one more?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
9A.
God. Yeah, okay.
I swear I didn't put it in finer
I know
print.
you said. So number 9A, approval of nutrient management planning cost share transfer agreement.
Okay, so this is something we've done in the past. A couple years ago, we requested additional nutrient management planning funds from other counties. That time it was from Jackson County and Barron County and I think it was Racine County. We had received close to $30,000 at that time. This time we're short again. We have Travis in our offices worked with enough people to generate a need. And to get us through this year, we need $1,744 to finish out a contract. I put out an ask out to my counterparts in other counties. Rusk County stepped up. And in your packet is the transfer agreement. Hopefully you had a chance to kind of read through that, but basically it's a very simple form. I have the copy here that Rusk County's Land Conservation Committee approved their transfer of money. Upon your approval, we will accept that money, supply the form to DATCAP, and then they make the adjustments out of our from Rusk County's allocation to ours, and then we can spend that money yet this year. And I will note that while the final allocation for our 2025 grant isn't final yet, but what we anticipate to receive, we have landowners, farmers that are interested to the point where we will spend all of next year's money already at the turn of the year potentially, and maybe doing the same ask again for more additional funds from other counties. So we're making some good progress on getting some NMPs out there. But at this point in time, the ask is just to approve a transfer from Rusk County to Dunn County.
Okay. Motion for that?
I can move approval, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. The motion to approve the nutrient management planning cost share agreement. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. It's approved.
Thank you.
Say, Chase, these counties that give you money, if they don't use that money, does that go back to the state or can they keep it in their fund for the following year? So it's
No.
either use it or not use it.
Yeah, so the way the system is set up is that if you don't use it within the year that you're allocated, you have the opportunity to extend it for one more year,
Okay.
but you have to have a contract to extend it for.
Mm.
So if you don't have anybody lined up for, let's say, building a waterway or doing a nutrient management plan, then that money gets rolled back to the state. And then they make it part of the future allocations. Counties that are in situations where they struggle to allocate their money from time to time, and it's very unique. It's not necessarily that they're not doing the work. There's some uniqueness to it. If they have, it will count against them as underspending. So every time that a county would apply for another grant in the future, they look back at the previous 3 years on their underspending, and then that'll affect what they're actually going to get. So like for us, we're at 0% underspending. So whatever we apply for, we're typically obligated to get the max that they can allow, that they have available for us. If we had an underspending balance, then that would subtract from what we potentially could get. So we don't want to have underspending. And in fact, I think it's also beneficial to us to see that we're taking funds from other counties, because they know that the need is there here in Dunn County. So should future funds become available, I think it looks good for us to potentially apply for more.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, good question, Gary. Announcements from anyone? All right. Our next meeting is October 2nd, and we are adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
work,
Thanks,
everybody.
Diane. What's the date today?
Today is the 18th.
Thank you, Jason. Well, that was a quick meeting.
You're longer.
They'll come again, I'm sure.
Yeah.